Does anyone else think it's really, really strange how the same people who call Trump a dictator are literally siding with an actual dictatorship? I'm not a supporter of Trump, but the supreme leader of Iran and the Islamic regime of Iran, that is an actual dictatorship. When our government killed innocent, peaceful people on the streets of Minnesota, and much of this country was rightfully against that. But now those same people who were against those killings of Americans who were protesting against a policy they disagree with, that pales in comparison by many degrees to what the regime in Iran has done to its own people. And so these same people who call Trump a dictator and condemn him for killing 2 people on the streets of Minnesota are now siding with a regime that has killed tens of thousands of its own people for peacefully protesting on the streets of Iran and demanding freedom and a better life, and government that doesn't invest all of its resources in pursuing wars and supporting terrorist proxies throughout the Middle East and building a nuclear weapons program that much of the world has been trying to end for many years. When you hear people condemn this regime, but this isn't the way to end it, what do they think is the way? Yes, diplomacy is always ideal and always better than force, but when diplomacy doesn't work, the other option is force. And the Iranian regime has for years been playing games with diplomats, and in the latest negotiations, it was clear that they had no intention of saying yes to ending their nuclear weapons program. They openly said that they would not end their nuclear weapons program. They openly lied, saying that their nuclear program was peaceful when there were so many signs that it was not peaceful, including the fact that the negotiators in this latest round offered to provide the Iranians with uranium that would be designated for peaceful use so that they could be sure that their enrichment was for peaceful purposes and not for military purposes. And the Iranians refused that offer. It's just so dishonest, the campaign against this effort to not only put an end to the single most destabilizing force in the Middle East that is sowing chaos across the Middle East and has been for decades through its support of terrorist proxies. The Islamic Republic of Iran, one of its core founding principles is the destruction of Israel, the return of a caliphate to the world. And so they are pursuing those means through violence. And so if we want to see an end to that, force is necessary. It should be a sign to all of these anti-dictator activists in the West that the people who were protesting on the streets of Iran for a better future, for an end to this oppressive regime, which outlaws homosexuality, which suppresses women and requires women to cover their hair. It is just mind-boggling to me that feminists and supporters of the LGBTQ community can support a regime that suppresses those same values and kills people for fighting for those values. So I just think so much of the opposition to the strikes in Iran really show us what is behind so much of that opposition truly. That opposition is not because they stand with the Iranian people, because the vast majority of Iranians are against the Islamic regime. What they're really saying is that they oppose anything that is in the interest of Israel. And they show the complete vapid nature of their movement, which essentially is saying the enemy of our enemy is my friend, regardless of how that enemy treats its own people, regardless of how that enemy treats homosexuality, women's rights. We're living in strange times.